Seventh Planet Broadcasting, Headlines with a Brain, with your host, Gerald Clark. Welcome to episode 5 of Headlines with a Brain. It's Gerald Clark, your host today, and we'll take a look at the Anunnaki historical decision to use either biological workers or tools in the ancient gold mines. Gold prices are at a new high at over $1,500 US per ounce currently, and the mining corporations are under pressure to produce gold again. The same question is relevant in today's world, as well as both we'll examine in this report. Which is better, autonomous or human in-the-loop controlled technical machinery like robots and tools, or biological workers for mining? We'll assume the ancient history biological workers mentioned in the Atrahasis had access to primitive tools like shovels and pickaxes, etc., versus more advanced boring machines like we use today. This episode is brought to you by Seventh Planet Broadcasting. Here's a short message from our sponsor.
Yo, give us the gold, lady, and no one gets hurt.
Down to my last bottle of Starfire Gold, and by no means is this riffraff gonna take mine. I love this product. Thanks for fixing me up with the good stuff. AutisticVegan.com and GeraldClark77.com.
Now, imagine for a moment that you were a member of an advanced team of alien colonizers that came to Earth long ago. The team is faced with the pressure from program managers back on the home planet to get the gold resources yesterday, and thus had to consider scaling their operation at some point in the future to meet the mission goals. The Seventh Planet Mercury Rising, page 47, goes into further discussion of the tools versus slaves topic we're covering today as it relates to gold mining. This brings the question to the forefront. Should the Advanced Reconnaissance Team use what they have on hand, or make a list of the needed equipment to be immediately shipped from the home planet and take a vacation until it arrives? Given it takes time to verify a resource exists and the quality, quantity, and the minimum equipment will be provided to the recon team for that reason, just the essentials, to then see if there's a future return on investment based on their discoveries, like we do in mining today. Usually in the form of a detailed report so the managers can decide whether to pour more money in it. So for the advanced recon team, here's our advice. Keep your list and show us the money first, okay? So until that time, it would make more sense to use what they have on hand or on planet to get the work done. Thus, it makes sense that they would opt for biological workers or hybrids until it's time to scale the operation that requires more infrastructure. In the best case, the hybrids can accomplish the task without having to add any additional resources like heavy equipment, repair facilities, etc. In all likelihood, there comes a point in the decision cycle that predicates to what extent primitive workers can be used or more advanced machines are needed. A simple hypothesis would be that simplistic tasks like digging can be performed by primitive, meaning limited intelligence in this context, easily enough, whereas complex tasks are better done by machines. At the onset, the alien colonizers would only have what they were able to transport, which puts a limit on scaling any operation like that of gold mining. Look at the modern mining operations to get an idea of the size and the scales required for machines that dig, process, and extract metals, as an example. Well, we'll take a look at a video here. Look at the size of the tires alone on the trucks. They're enormous. How many big machine items would you send initially as part of an exploration advanced party of colonizers versus a follow-on crew that rotates in, knowing what the issues are from their experienced peers that went before them? My guess is the Anunnaki Advanced Team did not come fully prepared initially to perform the mining operations, except using manual labor, which the Atrahasis indicates the Ajiji miners provided. This was prior to their rebellion. Using technology and machines has both advantages and disadvantages. First, look at some of the advantages of using advanced tools like Enlil wanted, machinery, robots to do your work, versus biological meat slaves in our gold mining scenario, which is what appears to have happened in South Africa from the records. Some advantages of tools. One clear advantage for a functioning machine or advanced tool, it's much more efficient and reliable in biological labor. Machines do not need to sleep and can be supplied chemical or electrical energy, which is in abundance. They also do not revolt when overworked, but may break down mechanically due to overuse or normal wear after a life cycle. Some disadvantages. A disadvantage of machines is that they do break down, as mentioned before, and unless you have the means to repair or replace them on site, the milestone delivery for that month just might take a hit. Imagine the large factories for robots that build cars today. To what extent would the Anunnaki be able to build factories to manufacture and repair complex machinery at the onset of their colonizing mission to Planet Key? My guess is it would be very limited based on what the evidence shows in South African mines that we have determined, based on carbon dating from the Anglo-American Mining Company, specified in a past article. They indicated the gold mines were over 100,000 years old. They've removed that article from their website since. Wonder if they found the GG miner bodies who died in those hellish mines as well. We don't know. One also has to consider that unless a machine is a robot that can dig or mine without an operator in the loop, someone has to control the machine, which defeats the scalability point that tools can supply. This is like sending one backhoe a farmer might use in a garden to dig 7 kilometers of underground tunnel a day. Not happening when you consider that a modern tunnel boring machine can achieve this with a diameter large enough to put 2 large roads that fit side-by-side cargo trucks inside. Thus, to have a scaling change in the mining operation, choosing tools, they would need to be more autonomous, like a robot or on a car factory line. Otherwise, more biological bodies would be required in the loop, pushing the decision to a 2-stage approach. Robots do complex, repetitive tasks well, whereas humans do not. First, given the restricted capacity for an advanced colonizing team to bring big machines along, they would choose a biological helper instead, which looks like that's where the Igigi came in. Let's look at the advantages and disadvantages for using meat versus tools. A huge advantage for choosing biology, it self-reproduces. As for food sources to sustain them, it can be found in the local area on planet, and no chemical processing is needed to produce gasoline or electrical generators like it was needed with machines, which is a process. They can pull the food right off the trees. Train the workers to be farmers and they can generate their own food as well, and produce an overage that feeds the Anunnaki colonizers too. Hey, what a good deal. In order to manage the birth-death ratio, the focus would be to help get the population up and growing fast and training them to work with tools in the mines. And in this case, digging with primitive instruments wouldn't take a lot of training. You could do it by just demonstration, right? Without even being able to speak. So the mining managers are not worried too much about a rapidly growing population for several reasons. First is that their genetics limit them to 120 years of a lifespan, some portion of which can be used as workers doing manual labor, which wears out biology over time. Thus, the hard work would cull the weaker members of the population naturally. If a reproductive urge is programmed into the genetics, then the catalyst for a large population is endemic. It's still working today, is it not? As for overpopulation, here's kind of looking at some of the disadvantages for using meat versus tools. This could be a concern for the Anunnaki advance team. If the resources needed to sustain the biological workers is consumed with no source for rapid replacement to keep them on schedule. With a growing population, the size of the operation would be scaled naturally when too many miners were born to fit in the shafts of another mine could be started in parallel. The progress for biological workers would not be as efficient as machines, but could be self-sustained with a small number of managers, as it seems to be the case with our hybridization between the Neanderthal and the Anunnaki council members, Enki and Ninmah, long ago. We're told in the Atrahasis that after 600 years of primitive worker hybridization breeding program, the populace grew large and noisy. So the managers would have to find a balance if the population needed to be limited in some way based on resources if that were to occur. In the Atrahasis, Enlil used disease and starvation to reduce the population. Is that still happening today? Also, if the resource gathering milestones are being met, and there's an excess labor pool, the extras can be redirected to do other work if there are enough managers to oversee their parallel activities, but this does not scale well unless there is centralized control from the original advanced crew. That means some sort of telemetry equipment is going to be needed, cameras or so on, in order to monitor all these other operations. This might be a stretch and is why Enlil was sent after Enki's advanced team had the basics set up and now needed to be scaled by the Lord of the Command. We also saw the Ajiji dredging canals and other work tasks outside of mining, and they had a canal controller named Anunnaki who was there with them at the council meeting. Consider if the Anunnaki had chosen only tools and no biological workers, then we would not be here to have this discussion. Based on movies like The Terminator, RoboCop, and others, could the machines be used to eliminate the overage population of primitive workers as Enlil's revenge, having only wanted tools in the first place? This has been your host, Gerald Clark, with Headlines with a Brain, Episode 5. See you all next time.